millionaire CEO kicked his wife and daughter out into the street. Those words marked the beginning of Ella's unbelievable journey. A life that seemed perfect on the outside, but was nothing short of a gilded cage. Ella's story began in a small town where she grew up under the unyielding control of her parents. They had a plan for her life, and love or personal happiness wasn't part of it. Ella learned early on that obedience kept the peace, so she followed their every command. When she reached her final year at university, her parents introduced her to Ryan, a wealthy, ambitious CEO. They described him as her golden ticket to a life of ease and security. Ella didn't love Ryan, but her feelings didn't matter. Her parents had already made up her mind for her. The wedding was extravagant, a display of wealth and power, but Ella felt more like an accessory than a bride. From the moment she said, "I do," her life became a series of commands and restrictions. Ryan was controlling and emotionally cold, treating her more like a possession than a partner. He dictated how she dressed, who she spoke to, and even how she spent her time. The only thing Ella fought to keep was her job as an art teacher, a tiny piece of freedom in a life dominated by rules. Her parents were proud. Her friends envied her. But Ella felt like she was suffocating. The luxury around her couldn't fill the emptiness inside. Ryan made good on his promise to provide financially, but emotionally, he was absent. For years, she endured a marriage devoid of love and warmth, trapped in a life that looked perfect but felt like a prison. And then the cracks began to show. Ryan, the man who once promised stability, would soon deliver devastation. Ella had no idea that the life she had been forced to build was about to come crashing down, and that her fight for freedom and dignity was only just beginning. Ella's days blurred into each other, filled with loneliness and the heavy silence of a house that wasn't a home. But then, something happened that brought light into her shadowed life. Her daughter Lily was born. From the moment Ella held Lily in her arms, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years: pure, unfiltered joy. The tiny bundle of life in her hands filled a void that no wealth or luxury ever could. Lily's soft cries and the warmth of her little fingers wrapped around Ella's brought a sense of purpose Ella had never known. For the first time, she understood what happiness truly was. It wasn't grand houses or expensive jewelry. It was love. But that happiness came with challenges. Ryan, impatient and self-centered, quickly grew annoyed by the late-night cries of their newborn. To him, Lily was a disruption, not a miracle. The tension in the house escalated with every sleepless night. He began to lash out, his temper flaring at the smallest inconvenience. Ella became the buffer, calming Lily while trying to pacify Ryan, but nothing she did was ever good enough. The loving mother's warmth and the cold indifference of her husband clashed daily in their home. Desperate and overwhelmed, Ella turned to her parents for support. Surely they would understand. Surely they would help. But their response crushed her. They dismissed her concerns, telling her she needed to adjust and be grateful for the life Ryan provided. They weren't interested in her struggles. To them, appearances mattered more than their daughter's happiness. So Ella endured. Year after year, she bore the weight of her husband's anger and her parents' indifference. The only thing that kept her going was Lily. Her daughter's laughter and curious eyes gave Ella strength on the darkest days. When Ryan's harsh words echoed through the house, it was Lily's presence that reminded her what she was fighting for. But as the years went on, Ella began to realize that love for her daughter might not be enough to shield them both from the storm brewing in their home. She knew that her strength alone wouldn't protect Lily forever. And though she couldn't see it yet, the cracks in her life were growing deeper, pushing her closer to a choice that would change everything. For years, Ella endured Ryan's temper, his indifference, and his relentless control, all for the sake of Lily. She had given up so much of herself, her dreams, her freedom, even her dignity, just to keep their fragile home intact. But then, one day, everything shattered. It began like any other tense morning in their cold, sprawling house. Ella was in the kitchen trying to quiet Lily, who was coloring at the table, when the front door opened. Ryan walked in, but he wasn't alone. Behind him was a young woman, polished and confident, with a smirk that told Ella she wasn't just a guest. Ryan's voice was sharp and loud, cutting through the air like a blade. "Ella, come here," he barked. She hesitated, sensing the storm about to break, but obeyed. Standing in the doorway, she saw the woman's manicured hand rest possessively on Ryan's arm. "This is how a wife should look," Ryan said, his voice dripping with contempt as he gestured toward the stranger. "Elegant, beautiful, not some tired, unkempt housewife." Ella felt the air leave her lungs. The humiliation burned like fire in her chest. But she stayed silent, clinging to her composure for Lily's sake. She turned to leave, but Ryan wasn't finished. "You and the kid," he said coldly, "pack your things and get out. There's no place for you here anymore. This house needs a woman I'm not ashamed to show to my friends." The words hit her like a slap. But what crushed her was the finality in his tone. He didn't care about the years she had given him, the sacrifices she had made, or the family they were supposed to be. In that moment, Ella realized the truth. She had never been more than a convenience to Ryan. And now, even that convenience had run out. Heartbroken but determined, Ella walked away without a word. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her cry. Instead, she went to Lily's room, packed her daughter's belongings into a small bag, and gathered what little she could for herself. Lily, sensing the tension, clutched her favorite stuffed bunny and whispered, "Mommy, are we leaving?" Ella knelt down and looked into her daughter's innocent eyes. "Yes, sweetheart," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "But don't worry, we'll be okay." When they stepped outside, the weight of their situation hit her. With nowhere to go and only a small stash of savings she had managed to hide over the years, Ella felt the crushing uncertainty of their future, but as she held Lily's hand tightly, she made a silent promise. They would start over no matter how difficult it was. For Lily's sake, she would find a way to rebuild. The world felt colder than ever, but Ella carried a spark inside her, one she hadn't felt in years. It was faint, but it was there. And though she didn't yet know how, that spark would guide her to a life she never imagined was possible. Ella had spent days trying to piece together the fragments of her shattered life. The room she rented with Lily was small and modest, but it was theirs. A space free from the cold dominance of Ryan. Even in her exhaustion, Ella found solace in Lily's laughter and her unwavering spirit. Together, they were learning to start over. One crisp autumn afternoon, Ella took Lily to the local park to gather materials for a school project. The golden leaves blanketed the ground, and the air was alive with the laughter of children. Lily, clutching her little basket, darted excitedly from tree to tree, collecting acorns and pine cones. For the first time in weeks, Ella felt a small sense of peace watching her daughter's joy. As Lily busied herself, Ella crouched to gather some leaves, her hands brushing against the cool earth. That's when she heard a warm, unfamiliar voice. "You know," the voice said, "you can make a great owl with those leaves. I used to make them with my mom when I was a kid." Ella looked up to see a man standing a few feet away. He was tall, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He held a violin case in one hand and a small bag of bread in the other, likely for feeding the ducks by the pond. His presence was unassuming, yet comforting, a stark contrast to the harshness she had grown used to. Ella smiled politely. "An owl, huh? I think Lily would love that." "But we might have gone a little overboard," she said, gesturing to the pile of leaves and cones. The man chuckled. "That's not too much. Trust me, when I was Lily's age, my mom and I collected enough to build a forest." Lily, overhearing the conversation, ran over with her basket. "Who's this, Mommy?" she asked curiously. "This is—" Ella paused, realizing she didn't know his name. "Daniel," he said, extending a hand to Lily with a friendly grin, "and you must be Lily, the best leaf collector in the park." Lily beamed, immediately warming to him. From that moment, their paths began to intertwine. Over the coming weeks, Daniel would often join Ella and Lily during their visits to the park. He was a musician, a violinist who taught at a local community center. His stories of childhood and his gentle encouragement resonated with Ella, reminding her of a life she had long forgotten, a life filled with art, laughter, and warmth. For the first time in years, Ella felt valued. Daniel didn't see her as a burden or a shadow of who she used to be. He saw her as Ella, the woman who loved her daughter fiercely and who had a quiet strength she didn't even recognize in herself. As the weeks turned into months, Daniel became a regular presence in their lives. He would bring his violin to the park, playing melodies that mesmerized Lily and brought a rare smile to Ella's face. He never overstepped, always respecting Ella's boundaries, but his kindness and sincerity spoke volumes. Ella couldn't ignore the pull she felt toward him. He was a man unlike any she had ever known, gentle, thoughtful, and genuine. And though she didn't yet dare to hope, a small part of her began to wonder if Daniel might be more than just a friend. But for now, she let the moments unfold, grateful for the warmth he brought into their lives. After years of cold and darkness, Daniel was the ray of light Ella hadn't known she was searching for. Ella had begun to feel something she thought she never would again: hope. Her days, once filled with struggle and uncertainty, now had moments of laughter and warmth, all thanks to Daniel. His presence was like sunlight breaking through the clouds. And as time passed, Ella realized that her feelings for him had grown deeper than she dared to admit. Daniel had become a central part of their lives, a steady source of joy and kindness. He played violin for Lily, teaching her to find rhythm in the simplest things, and he shared stories with Ella that made her feel truly seen. For the first time, Ella felt she could lower the walls she'd built around her heart. She began to imagine a future with Daniel, a future filled with love, security, and healing. But just as she allowed herself to dream, reality struck with a cruel hand. And one chilly afternoon, as they strolled through the park with Lily skipping ahead, Daniel stopped suddenly. His face, usually so calm and composed, seemed troubled. Ella turned to him, concerned. "Is everything all right?" she asked softly, searching his eyes. Daniel sighed deeply, his shoulders sagging under an invisible weight. He looked at her with an intensity she hadn't seen before, as if he were memorizing her face. "Ella," he began, his voice steady but tinged with sadness. "There's something I should have told you a long time ago." Her heart tightened. The seriousness in his tone made her brace herself. "I wasn't completely honest when we first met," he continued. 6 months before I found you and Lily in this park, I was diagnosed with an advanced illness. I underwent treatments, but the doctors told me there wasn't much time left. They gave me 6 months. Meeting you and Lily, it gave me more time than I ever expected. You brought me back to life." Ella stared at him, her mind reeling. The words felt like a punch to her chest, stealing her breath. "Daniel, no," she whispered, her voice breaking. "There has to be something." "Another treatment? Another doctor?" He shook his head gently, placing a reassuring hand on hers. "Ella, I've made peace with it. But what I haven't been able to stop thinking about is you and Lily. I know how hard you've fought to rebuild your lives, and I want to make sure you're cared for, no matter what." Before Ella could respond, Daniel pulled out a set of documents from his bag. "I've already made arrangements," he explained. "My home, my savings, they're yours now. I've transferred everything to you and Lily. It's not much, but it's enough to give you both a fresh start." Tears spilled down Ella's face as she clutched the papers, her hands trembling. She didn't want his money or his house. She wanted him. "You didn't have to do this, Daniel," she said through her tears. "You've already given us so much." Daniel smiled, his eyes glistening. "Ella, you and Lily gave me something I never thought I'd have. Love, laughter, a family. This is my way of making sure you can keep going, even when I'm not here." The weight of his words was unbearable, but Ella could see the peace in his expression. She knew he had made his decision, and all she could do now was honor the love he had given them. That night, as Ella sat by Lily's bedside, watching her daughter sleep peacefully, she made a promise to herself and to Daniel. She would honor his kindness, his memory, and the gift of hope he had brought into their lives. No matter how much it hurt, she would carry on. For Lily, for herself, and for the man who had changed their world. The day came sooner than Ella was ready for. Daniel's strength had been fading, his once lively energy reduced to quiet smiles and whispered words. Yet, even in his final moments, he was surrounded by love. Ella held his hand tightly, as Lily, too young to fully understand but old enough to feel the weight of the moment, sat quietly by his side, clutching his stuffed bunny. Daniel looked at Ella, his eyes filled with both gratitude and sadness. "Promise me," he said softly, his voice barely a whisper. "Promise me you'll keep going, that you'll find happiness. For you and Lily." Ella's tears fell freely, but she nodded. "I promise," she whispered, her voice breaking. "We'll be okay, Daniel. I promise." With those words, Daniel closed his eyes, a peaceful expression settling over his face. He had given Ella and Lily everything he could, and now he was free of pain. Though the loss was immeasurable, Ella knew his love would remain with them forever. In the weeks that followed, Ella channeled her grief into honoring Daniel's memory. She worked with the local orchestra, where Daniel had once played, to organize a concert in his honor. The event was more than just a performance. It was a celebration of his life, his music, and the joy he had brought to everyone who knew him. The highlight of the evening came when Lily, now more determined than ever to follow in Daniel's footsteps, walked onto the stage. She sat at the grand piano, her small frame dwarfed by the instrument, and began to play Daniel's favorite song. The melody filled the theater, raw and emotional, as if Daniel himself were there guiding her hands. The audience was moved to tears, and Ella felt a profound sense of pride, watching her daughter honor the man who had been such a beacon of hope in their lives. The concert didn't mark the end of their grief, but it was a turning point. It gave Ella the strength to look forward instead of back, to focus on building the life Daniel had envisioned for her and Lily. Over time, Ella found love again. Marcus, a kind and gentle man she met through her work, entered their lives like a quiet breeze. He never tried to replace Daniel, but instead became a source of support and stability for both Ella and Lily. He adored Lily as if she were his own, and she in turn began to call him Dad. Ella's heart, once so bruised and broken, began to heal. Her life with Marcus was filled with warmth, laughter, and the kind of love that didn't come with conditions or expectations. Together they created a new home, one that felt safe and full of joy. As Ella watched Lily blossom into a talented pianist, she often thought of Daniel. She knew he would be proud, not just of Lily's accomplishments, but of the life they had built. His love had been the foundation of their new beginning, and his memory continued to inspire them every day. And though Ella's story was far from the one she had imagined, it was hers, a testament to resilience, the power of kindness, and the enduring strength of love. Years passed, and Ella's life transformed into something she could have never imagined. Lily, now a teenager, had blossomed into a gifted musician. Her hands, small and uncertain when she first touched a piano, had grown confident and expressive. Every note she played seemed to carry the echoes of Daniel's love and the strength he had inspired in both her and Ella. One bright spring day, Lily competed in a prestigious national music competition. The air was charged with excitement as the finalists performed on stage, their talents showcased to an audience filled with industry professionals and proud families. Lily, dressed elegantly but still clutching the lucky charm Daniel had once given her, stepped onto the stage. Ella and Marcus sat in the audience, holding hands tightly. Marcus had become more than just a husband. He was the father Lily had always deserved. And his unwavering support made this moment all the more special. As Lily began to play, the theater filled with a hauntingly beautiful melody. It was Daniel's favorite song, the very same one she had performed at his memorial concert years ago. The performance was flawless, not just technically, but emotionally. Each note seemed to tell a story, weaving together the heartbreak, resilience, and love that had brought them to this moment. When she finished, the crowd erupted in applause, some rising to their feet. Ella's heart swelled with pride as tears streamed down her face. Later that evening, as the judges announced the winner, Lily's name echoed through the hall. The audience erupted into cheers, and Lily stood frozen for a moment before breaking into a radiant smile. She walked onto the stage to accept her award and, with the microphone in hand, spoke words that silenced the room. "This victory," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "is dedicated to someone who changed my life. To Daniel, the man who taught me that music isn't just about notes, but about telling a story, about feeling. He gave my mom and me the hope we needed when we had nothing left. And this is for him." Ella felt a wave of bittersweet pride as the audience applauded again, their hearts touched by Lily's heartfelt words. Daniel's legacy had come full circle, living on through the music he had inspired and the love he had left behind. But across the city, someone else was watching. Ryan, now a shadow of the man he once was, sat alone in a dimly lit apartment. His wealth had crumbled due to reckless decisions, his once flawless reputation tarnished. The young woman he had replaced Ella with had disappeared years ago, taking with her a good portion of what little he had left. As he watched Lily on the television screen, her name announced alongside her adoptive father's, Marcus, a pang of recognition struck him. The girl on stage, the talented, confident young star, was his daughter. The daughter he had ignored. The daughter he had dismissed without a second thought. But Ryan couldn't reconcile the image of the radiant young musician with the tiny girl whose cries had once annoyed him. He hadn't earned the right to call her his daughter, and deep down, he knew it. Watching her shine in a way he never imagined, he felt the weight of regret settle heavily on his chest. He had chosen ambition and pride over family, and now he had nothing left but memories of what could have been. Back at the gala dinner following the competition, Ella and Marcus stood proudly beside Lily, who held her trophy with wide eyes and an even wider smile. The three of them were no longer bound by the pain of the past, but united by the love they had built together. As the night drew to a close, Ella gazed at her daughter and whispered silently to Daniel, "We made it. Thank you for giving us the strength to find our way." And in that moment, surrounded by love and hope, Ella knew they were exactly where they were meant to be. Ella's journey is a powerful reminder of resilience, kindness, and the courage to start over. From betrayal and heartbreak, she rose to create a life filled with love, hope, and triumph. Her story teaches us that even in our darkest moments, the possibility of a new beginning is always within reach. Daniel's selfless love showed that true wealth lies in the lives we touch, and Lily's success proved that perseverance can transform pain into purpose. And Ryan? His regret stands as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the cost of selfishness and neglect. What did this story mean to you? Was it Ella's strength, Daniel's kindness, or Lily's triumph that touched your heart the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. If this story inspired you, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us share more incredible stories of hope and courage. Let's keep celebrating the beauty of second chances together.